your martial arts movie podcast.
Haha! I threw that shit before I walked in the room!
Featuring drunken Thai boxer Will.
Too bad you will die.
The also drunken wrestler Mark.
I said I don't want trouble!
And drunken karate master Zero.
You've lost your balls.
And now,
Call. I know Kung Fu. You know, baby.
Fists of Fail.
That's me. That was the sound of my sanity cracking.
Why is that, Will? Why is your sanity cracking?
We're talking about Fistful of Vengeance today.
Hey, it's a new release.
It's a new release. It's new release.
2021. 2022. Oh my God. I'm living in a loop. 2022, a new martial arts release on Netflix that is a sequel to Wu Assassins, a Netflix martial arts series.
So that's why I'm partially can hold on to my laughter. I never actually finished that show. I tried really hard. But for the timing of this episode, I got like pretty close to the end. But thankfully, Netflix does this wonderful thing wherein they now let you watch things at 1.25 speed, and that is like the only way to watch that show. Period. That show on normal speed is a train wreck. Well, I
don't know if train wreck is fair to say. It's difficult. It was very difficult for me to sit through it. I've mentioned a few times on this podcast that I thought we were going to cover it potentially. You know, it's martial arts related. That's what we do. We are a martial arts podcast. And so I sat through it. First couple episodes were just fine. I liked the fighting in the first episode very much. That's where they put all the best stuff. And as the show goes on, it gets pretty silly. And then towards the end, it becomes very difficult to sit through, at least for me. I thought the
writing?
lore that they built and the storytelling and then even the fighting were just not... It just didn't do it for me. It started out kind of high and then it just slowly declined for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. I got a little bit past halfway, and the story goes all over the place. And I did not expect it to go that route. No spoilers. Maybe we will cover it one day officially, and Zero won't kill me because I subjected him to watching the whole thing when I only finished half of it. But yeah, I kind of agree for the most part. The writing is not great. The characters are kind of they're just there. And the only real reason to watch it, because for the exact reason why any of us would try to watch it, is for the fighting. And yeah, you're right. The first episode actually does have some decent fighting and fight choreography. And as the show goes on, it starts to dwindle a little bit more. But any scene with Iko or Mark Dacascos or Louis Tan, those are all pretty solid for the most part. So that's Wu Assassins in a nutshell. Then we get Fistful of Vengeance, which is comes out 4 years after the fact. This is, I guess, supposed to be some sort of continuation or wrap up of the events of season 1. Now, I didn't finish it, but now I can kind of surmise what happens at the end of season 1 because they tell you straight up what happens in the very 3 minutes of the movie. So if you don't know what happens in Wu Assassins season 1, don't watch Fistful of Vengeance. I mean, that's kind of a given.
My feeling, I don't know if this is correct, is that Fistful of Vengeance is kind of like a soft reboot sequel where they are really jamming in exactly what happened in Wu Assassins, but they're glazing over everything so that maybe people who didn't watch it can still understand. And I feel like you kind of can. You kind of just have to go with the flow of certain things. When characters pop up, who's that? Oh, well, they were the bad guy in this one, and they start to drop hints of what happened in the series, and you just kind of have to run with it.
Yeah. Well, that was the actual the pitch notes for the show, for the movie. It's Cow. Let's see. Someone who's linked in with the show. He said it's a sort of like a standalone movie. You don't necessarily have to watch the first season to understand what's going on. I personally think it's something that will be more easily digestible, but in a more action-packed and a more roller coaster from beginning to end. Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. You can still understand the movie without the context of the show. Although there are moments where I noticed, like, okay, they're referencing characters, they're referencing things that you would only understand if you had watched the show. And as someone who only watched a little bit more than half of it, I noticed that I understood it a little bit more because of that. So without that context, I was kind of like, wait, what? I'm sure this would have confused people who didn't actually watch this. But
well, I watched the whole thing, and I don't know. Maybe it's this new departure and new style of storytelling that they're trying to pivot away from Wu Assassins. I was still getting confused with what was going on sometimes.
Yep.
So, yes, you don't need to essentially watch Wu Assassins. They make references in this movie to it, but you're not missing anything if you didn't watch it. So
yeah. Well, is it a step up or a step down from Wu Assassins?
Ooh, that's a tough one, because this was only an hour and 30 minutes, where Wu Assassins, 8 to 10 episodes? I can't recall.
Yeah, 10 episodes. 10
episodes. And that became very difficult to sit through. But when you rewatch Wu Assassins, and you gotta have to let stuff go. You can't, I guess maybe sometimes when I watch martial arts related content and I see someone like Iko Uwais, who I put in the realm of more serious movies.
Yes.
When he's in these stories where it's coming across really cheesy, and people are explaining the plot for him because maybe he's not that good at his English at this point yet. I found myself laughing at it. I don't want to, but I'm laughing and I'm kind of enjoying, and it's becoming B grade almost. So I was enjoying it in that aspect, but then I was getting frustrated at the end.
Okay, well, that's the bias that you and I have. I kind of enjoyed the beginning portions of Wu Assassins, like in that it's so bad it's good kind of cheese to it.
That's what I'm getting at.
Whereas, like, there are actual action buffs out there who, like, legitimately enjoyed the show. And you know, like, do you just like the action? And they're like, no, the story's amazing. And then I immediately discredit anything that they critique ever again. Because, the story, the writing, it's not Shakespeare. Let's just put it like that. But I will say, like, obviously it's very simple in terms of like how they write the characters. It's super cliche and super, you know, like by the numbers. But in a TV show format, I can kind of buy it, because, you know, they're pacing out like a TV show, because it is a TV show. The movie Fistful of Vengeance, I guess we'll get into the story in a little bit. It's paced like a TV show, but in a movie. So there are like these things happen like really quickly, like super quickly, and like there's it's like a 3-act structure, but it's like every act itself feels like 4 episodes. So like it just like there's no room to breathe. So it always felt like we just took whatever premise they had from the show, like whatever they had envisioned for like a second season or whatever, and they just consolidated that into a movie. And it just always felt like a rush job. Like when like something sudden happens, like someone died or whatever, I'm like, I didn't get to know this guy. You have to move things around in their scripts if you're gonna do something like that in a 90-minute movie. You know, if you're gonna have someone die when he was only introduced 5 minutes ago, don't expect us to be like, oh no, not him. Right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's other things from the show that like we don't have here, right? So we don't have Mark Dacascos. I don't know why. Is that a spoiler, Zero, or is that
to be honest, I actually can't remember why we don't see him again in the TV series, because he doesn't stay throughout the whole portion. There's a reason why he leaves, and I can't exactly remember it. So
right.
I'm discredited already.
Well, Well, it's been a while since you watched it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
like,
yeah, exactly.
understandable.
One thing you'll notice though is they reference characters in the TV series.
Yeah.
And we can't see their face, so maybe they don't have the rights to those
don't.
actors or something like that. They keep
No,
on
they clearly
referencing
don't.
the sister. That's the main driving point of the three characters in the movie, Fistful of Vengeance. They keep on cutting to a shot of a woman on the floor, but we don't see her face. So
No, but that character,
not sure what happened there.
But that character was introduced, or was a primary character in the show. Her name is Jenny or Jen, played by Lee Jun Lee. Don't even see her face. No flashbacks to the actual images from the show. So they're trying to like you said, they're trying to do like a soft reboot kind of thing. And no Celia Au, who played like the original Wu assassin, the one who keeps on like just randomly appearing in Iko Uwai's face. And like is that explained? Like, is that the reason why she's not showing up?
I can't remember. It's been a little bit since I watched the last episode because I did rewatch like a few of the early ones, but I didn't go back to the ends.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember if she just fucks off or if she dies. Like I just don't recall.
Yeah, the budget couldn't afford her, so like might as well just axe her. And obviously no Byron Mann, who is probably my favorite part from the show because he's pretty awesome in anything I've seen him in, but that's for story reasons. So, anywho. All the things aside from the TV show, let's talk about Fistful of Vengeance. Oh man, do I want to do this, or do you want to summarize the story? I don't know if I have the confidence for this.
Right. So Iko and friends take a trip to Thailand in search of Jenny's killer. Jenny is the sister of Tommy, I believe his name is, one of the characters. I can't recall if she had a relationship with Lucian, who is played by Louis Tan. And I think Iko was the chef in Jenny's restaurant. I think that's how they all relate. They're all just buddies. They're all buddies in the TV show. Spoiler alert. I mean, they say it in the very beginning of the movie, and that's the main drive. She dies at the end. Now they're in Thailand to avenge her death, and they're seeking out
vampires.
Is it vampires? It's
yes,
like chi vampires?
Chi vampires, Jiangxi or Gongxi, whatever. They don't really play up the lore of the Chinese vampire very well. Like, I mean, Zero, we've watched. Yes, exactly. You and I have watched a couple of movies with Chinese vampires. Like we're kind of familiar with the lore at least. Like me, I grew up with it, but like you've watched them, you should know them pretty well now. Like watching this movie, it's like they're like taking liberties at the lore of the vampire. They might as well not be vampires. They're jumping. I mean, jumping, kicking. But I don't think that's hopping.
No, I want the hopping.
Yeah, that might have confused the Westerners, and that's what it feels like for this film. I get that a lot in Wu Assassins too, but this is gonna sound really rough, but it does feel like it's a lot of like pandering Asian culture to Westerners. Like that's what this movie and the show sometimes feels like. And I know that they got some Asian cast members to like be part of the writing, but the way that they convey this information, it's like as digestible as you can try to make it to a Western audience. And like the whole.
But isn't that necessary?
Well, I mean, it feels like it's talking down to you, or it's like I don't know how many times I've used the Panda Express analogy. It feels like it's not authentic. It feels like a watered down version of it, to try to like appeal. It doesn't.
I mean, I didn't get any of that, but I mean that's just my opinion. Right?
Okay, well, Chinese guy here, so I think
two Asians debating what is and is not Asian, or what is pandering to us Asians, right?
I think like the exemplary moment is when someone is trying to explain yin and yang with soy sauce. That's like
I love that. I don't know. That feels like something my uncle would do. Like, this is yin soy sauce. This is yang vinegar. You bring it together, and in a Filipino household, that's how you make chicken adobo. So I'd love it.
You and I were like, when we saw that, we were both laughing because we were like, this is how this is basically the level of writing that we're expecting from this kind of writing staff. But like we're half expecting the soy sauce and the vinegar to like mix into the yin yang symbol, right? Because we're expecting it to be that dumb.
The movie that isn't that dumb, but I kind of wish it was.
I mean, it is kind of that dumb in a lot of ways, though, in a lot of different ways. And you know, like we got a lot of the returning, you know, the people who are like showrunners and directors from the original TV show. So I guess that's, you know, like you can't be too surprised that it's like basically just Wu Assassins, you know, like in a nutshell. But yeah, a lot of people like love Wu Assassins, not because, you know, it is, you know, for the story. You're actually in it just because you want to watch the fighting. So is this movie on par with the show at all in terms of fight composition? And I'm gonna tell you right now, no. The answer is no. Like, not even close. It's pretty damn bad.
The first couple episodes of Wu Assassins, I really like those fights. I do remember really liking them. And as the show goes on, I think it dipped in quality. And I think that Fistful of Vengeance, in terms of its fight choreography, feels more in line with the latter half of the show.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Well, do you think it was... I mean, a lot of shows do this, where the first episode is a pilot, so they need to get greenlit. So they put all their eggs in that basket, and then once the show gets, you know, up and running, they kind of lose their steam. They don't like... Not that they don't try, but, they have to allocate their budget.
Different factors can affect the quality.
Yeah. Not to be mean or anything like that, but that's probably what ended up happening, right?
Well, so we should bring this up. We watched some of the behind the scenes, the making of, and it's crazy. And we always kind of question this sometimes. We see great choreography, we see great athleticism of these performers in the gym, and somebody just holding up a cell phone and filming it, and it looks great. But then when it translates to film, and they get a different camera operator, they get a different cinematographer, and somebody to edit it, for some reason, at least for us personally, it does not look good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we don't always say this in every episode. We never put this asterisk, and sometimes we'll say it, but we always imply it, that if the fight, like, there is effort behind the scenes, we see them actually putting their damnedest into actually remembering and rehearsing the choreography. That alone gets an A for effort for me. But the finished product's the finished product, and that's unfortunately like what I judge the whole thing on.
Yeah. To be fair, you got to judge the finished product, right? It's weird. It's a shame because you can see they're putting in the effort, they're putting in the training to remember this choreography, to do these moves. Strangely enough, sometimes in one take, which goes more along the lines of how they film American choreography.
Yep.
And then when it all comes together on the cutting room floor, for some reason, it doesn't line up for us, right?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Right.
This is an interesting film. We're covering it later. We didn't cover it the day of, but seeing the response, the people who like action movies and fight choreography, there's a huge divide. There's basically two camps. They like it or they don't like it. So I'm surprised, because sometimes when people say, "Oh, I don't like this," generally, like, at least from what I noticed, people will all kind of pile into one side, but it seems pretty split. So just because we don't like it doesn't mean don't watch it, right?
I don't know. Like, our opinions at the end, okay, they're not like definitive, like don't go watch it, but like we give our recommendations for a reason.
Of course, yes.
We didn't even get started, really, and I'm going to tell you right now, like, what my recommendations are. They're not glowing, but we'll go into detail why. It comes down to the fight composition. It's atrocious. And yeah, like you said before, it takes... I mean, it's using the whole Hollywood system, or like a Hollywood approach to like filmmaking, which is master shot, and then you have your secondaries. That's fine and all. Like, you have your masters, to like capture a lot of the action, and your secondaries to cut back and forth to it. You don't do that every freaking 2 seconds. which is essentially what they do in this movie. It's terrible. It robs you from any sense of like urgency and like immersion in the fights, because especially with a lot of the hits. You sent me what 2-ish days ago or something along those lines of Louis Tan just fighting fighting on the streets. Looks great. He's doing it all. Like I did not know that he did it all in one take.
That's
like
what
I would not have
alluding
known.
to. It's crazy that they have to learn. They're learning choreography in the one take, and then it gets cut up. So we always question this because I guess you and I aligned more with how they film in Hong Kong, where they know the shots and they don't repeat it if they're going to switch to a different camera angle, right? Because that's kind of wasted effort, at least how we personally think. So if he's going to memorize all that choreography in one take, why don't we just shoot it in one take?
Yes.
Right. That makes sense to me. But again, we're not in the industry, so maybe they're just, they're filming the way they want, so that's fine. We can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Well, as a moviegoer, as someone who's just watching the film, and especially as someone who's analyzing it, it's very frustrating because you want to break down like what the person did, like the immediacy of it, the impact of like the hits. And you lose a lot of that. You actually lose your placement in the scene because we keep cutting camera angles. And we're like with those rapid edits. So I really despise that. Like I know that's their choice. It's probably some sort of, I'm going to chalk it up to some sort of executive decision that they, there's some sort of insecurity that, it's not edited like a typical Hollywood film. So we need to ascribe to that. But I don't know. I'm definitely not a fan of that. I don't like that line of thinking. I think that's it's kind of copping out. Like there's no confidence in the actors, which I think that's a big discredit for the performers because like they memorized all the choreography and they rehearsed it. So the fact that you have to edit around them, I think like they edit that this badly is an example of you like not having a confidence in your performers. That's my 2 cents.
I agree with that, but that's also speculation. We don't know why they're
That's true.
We don't know why they're editing it like this. This could be the director's fault. This could be editor's fault. Like, yeah, it's somebody. He's like, oh, this is how it should look like, but we don't want it to look like that. No, but I have final say. Fuck. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Basically, just fuck. This movie. Fuck. Yeah. The composition is terrible. The fight composition is awful.
Okay, so but I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this, right? Because as we, when we first watched it, we were both, we can openly say we were not crazy about the fights. We were kind of disappointed, if anything, considering you have Iko Uwais, very, very, very good martial artist, on-screen martial artist, Louis Tan, who's becoming more popular, showing he can do fights as well. If this was starring like no-name martial artists, like no-name actors, like if this was strictly, direct to TV, direct to video, like do you think we could be more forgiving if it was just because we don't know these people, we don't know their talent, right? I think for me, like when I think Iko, I immediately think of his older movies, Raid and whatnot.
Yep.
And I have expectations that he has to fight a certain way, or his fights have to look a certain way. And because they don't, maybe I'm not liking it.
Well, that's hard to say because you're right. Like we have the fact that like Iko is in the movie, so you kind of expect him to do Iko shit, right? Or be in the caliber of what he has done in the past. I mean, he's had some hits and misses. That's fine and all, but I feel like the show and the movies have kind of squandered his talents in certain ways. Because like we know the way that he fights, it's very visceral, very like, but he's like he has a very strong physical presence in anything that he's in. And I feel like for this movie, again, I don't know if it's him. Actually, it doesn't feel like it's him because like watching the previs, he looks fine. But when you're watching him in any of the fight scenes, it seems like he's not as ferocious. That's really hard to describe without like going into exact details. But yeah, but like, because Iko's in the movie, I kind of expect it to be elevated at a certain level. It's like having Jackie in your movie, and then like he doesn't do Jackie shit, right? You have a bigger star, so that you kind of have to elevate it in a way. And I'm glad like Louis Tan's doing more stuff now. So like I half expected him to do even more, and he's pretty good. Like I'd say that I kind of just wanted the whole movie to be about Iko and Louis Tan just like being the only fighters. I did not expect anyone else to fight. Actually,
everybody fights.
Everyone fights in this movie,
and it has mixed results. Sometimes I can't recall. Maybe we've complained, why are they not fighting or whatnot? But now everybody fights, and now I want not everyone to fight.
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
It would have been better if some characters just kind of hid, went and hid in the side and let Iko and Louis do their thing.
Right. Well, okay. Again, that was their whole edict. They wanted everyone. They want the movie to be action packed, so they have to make everybody fight. Everyone knows kung fu in this movie. Everybody.
Yep.
Even though Iko shouldn't know kung fu because he knows a lot, but whatever.
Oh God, Iko on the Wing Chun dummy. That visual of him just kind of like tapping his forearms on the wood. Oh my God, no!
For those of you who don't like understand why that's funny, it's like I don't know. It's like out of your element. Like imagine you're an expert in the bow and arrow, and then you're given a rifle. It's like it's like you have to look convincing.
And you handle the rifle like a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like that. It looks like he's stupefied by this Wing Chun, wooden dummy, and he's just kind of like tapping it all wrong. It looks so strange.
Yeah, I mean, like we need more Salat shit, or like the things that Iko. Every movie he's in, he needs to punch a wall or something. Like in the show, he just punches a CGI boulder.
Oh God, no more punching boulders. And we got kind of upset too because the character Tommy, he adopts the butterfly knife, the Balisaga, I believe it is. And we know Iko is good at the knife, so when Iko takes it, I'm like, oh, is he just gonna fight with it? No.
Oh, that'll be something we'll talk about more in detail with the weaponry, or like just Iko's style of fighting in this movie in particular. Yeah, what was I going on about? I kind of already forgot. I kind of already forgot. Like we on like one of this weird tangent, but yeah. One good thing to mention about Wu Assassins and Fistful of Vengeance is there's supernatural shit. We didn't mention this yet. I mean, we mentioned there's a vampire, but it actually plays a role in the fighting. So that's something to be mindful of.
That's a good thing?
No, it's not. It's not a good thing. But be mindful
I thought
of
you said
it
was supposed to be a good thing.
No. No. Like I guess it's a good thing that I mentioned it. Because not everything is grounded in reality. Obviously, it doesn't have to be. But when they start doing some fantastical things, you're like, all right, well, some of these kind of take you out of it because like you want to see more visceral shit, and then like people are just fucking flying in like midair, and then people are like doing key blasts and stuff.
Yeah, this is all part of the world they set up. So I'm fine with people on wires, people doing key blasts and whatnot. What I'm not fine is if you have a character who has supernatural abilities, superpowers, key blast, whatever, if he's not using that to his advantage all the time in every fight, or they don't explain that he can't use it all the time in every fight, a simple line like, oh, I can't always do that, it drains me of energy, so I kind of have to fight like you normal humans, then I'm kind of calling bullshit sometimes. Like, why don't you just, push them all back? Why don't you use your powers? Come on, Iko, use your powers.
Yep. Yeah, it's used sparingly because you want to be able to show the actor doing his martial arts. So don't even have the supernatural stuff. I was actually hoping that they would rob the main character of his supernatural powers, like early on in the film, because
that'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Then so we could just kind of have that.
It brings them back to reality. They all just have to fight with their fists. Yeah. And there's confusion too because Iko's the Wu assassin. He gained the abilities from the monk that possessed him. He learned how to fight. Blah 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 blah. All that good stuff. But when you watch Fistful of Vengeance, you see that him and Louis Tan are kind of on the same
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. Why is he just not owning everybody, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very, very good point. The supernatural element, yeah, like I do complain about it, but because it is the world that they built, it is forgivable, so that's fine. But yeah, like that's the least of my worries when it comes to the fight composition, and yeah, that's as much as I need to say. Zero. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Because we can dive into the action if you'd like.
No, let's go into the fights, and if you want to hear us in detail break this down and possibly complain a little more, then check us out on Patreon, because that's where the uncut episode will be.
Yes, and you'll hear our justifications for complaining rather than being very
That's
general.
true, yes.
Yeah, because I mean, like, yeah, like we're being very vague and just like sounding really whiny. But I mean, if you hear our actual justifications for every single scene, you'll know why we're not big fans of the fighting. I'm not a big fan of fighting.
Yes.
We didn't rehearse this in advance. I don't know what Zero's gonna say, but I have my general sentiment of like why I didn't like the fighting.
Yeah, I don't like to be negative just for the sake of being negative. You know, I like to give positives as well. So I will also do that for the parts I like, but you will you'll hear reasons why we don't like certain things. So if you'd like to hear that, follow us on Patreon.
Regardless, yeah, everything will be in the action breakdown segment. So, yeah. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. We're at the point where we give our recommendations, but there's a whole wealth of audio you would be listening to here if you follow us on Patreon. There you can listen to the entire episode, including an exclusive action breakdown of the fights in the movie. But you can still support us by liking us on all the things and watch this and other episodes on YouTube with visual cues to accompany our discussion. And now on to our final thoughts.
Is that Fistful of Vengeance?
Yeah, Fistful of Vengeance.
Hey, that's Fistful of Vengeance.
I guess I always was wondering what the title was referring to. I mean, they need to do vengeance, but I don't know. I always thought the name was kind of stupid. But I don't know. Wu Assassins. What if they just called it Wu Assassins the movie?
Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't want to connect it to the series. Maybe they felt that the series was hurting them, so they tried to pivot. No, I'm not trying to be funny. Like, maybe strategically they didn't think that the series was good, but they still wanted to finish it, so they just gave it a new name to just disassociate, but they still kept it in the universe. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, that could be it. Oh man, what is better, this or the show?
Didn't we ask this already?
Did we? I don't know. We did not. Oh, okay. I don't remember.
Well,
okay,
I think we said. I think you asked the fights.
Oh, as a whole. Okay.
I mean, it's 90 minutes. This is a lot easier to sit through than 10 hours. I think they're all an hour each. I can't even remember anymore.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, it's 40-minute productions. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Well, okay. So after talking about it, I think I would prefer the show, and I didn't finish it, but I preferred the show. I know. I it's a slog to get through the show. I mean, like, but at least the fights in the show are, when they're bad, they're still, they're still okay. I mean, I feel like the vast majority of the fights in this movie are incomprehensible, and just like they just fall under the Hollywood trapping. It's like they didn't take any of the lessons they learned from the making of the good fights from Wu Assassins. But also just pacing. Like my big issue with this movie is that it's paced like it was ideated from a TV show, but they didn't cut out any of that fat. It feels like they took all the major plot points from whatever they had in mind for a show, and then it kept it in the movie when they should have cut out a lot of that stuff. Like those characters that just show up and die immediately. It's like, okay, you don't need them, or like you need to move those characters around in the plot, in the story, so it makes sense for a movie, or so it works for a movie. But it's just as stupid as the show. So like, if you're gonna at least enjoy it for one aspect, you might as well watch it in a television format. I don't recommend a single fight from this movie, like not even one. I'd say just go check out the previs. I think the making of is better than anything you'll see in the film. This was a slog. This was very difficult to watch. This is one of those films that if it weren't a new release, I'd be like, no, let's not do this.
Let's not talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get you. I feel the same way too.
You're usually the positive one, so I'm hoping
Yeah.
you're ending with this
I can always
positive
get
note.
positive. But in terms of the film and the fights, obviously, if you listen to the episode, we were not crazy about it. I don't like to just be negative on a movie because that's a shame. So many people worked on it, right? Like, you don't want it to just be a waste of everyone's time. I don't want to waste my time watching it either.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I did not like this. Didn't like the fights, and I didn't like the story. I think I agree with you in that probably Wu Assassins is probably better, at least the first couple episodes, because I remember liking the fights in the first ones, and then it kind of turns into so bad it's good, where you can kind of laugh at it, even though obviously that's not their intentions. But I'll end on some positives. Hey, we got 3 Asian male leads and no token white person.
Oh,
right?
That's very true. That's very, very true.
Yeah, and Louis Tan gets to fuck. Awesome. I'm all for that. We get real sets, barely, green screening. I'm all for that. I like that we shot on real sets, real practical effects sometimes. Just I don't like the fights and I don't like the story, so I gotta hone in on something. So I can appreciate that aspect of it. If you go on, I'm very active on Twitter. So when I saw people speaking about this movie, it's very divided. So I think that's kind of interesting too.
We're on one side of the divide.
You're going to meet people who like it and then people who don't like it, and we're obviously on that side.
You should have ended this episode with Louis Tan gets the fuck, because that's like you can't top that, Zero. You can't.